Clark.
My debut 1990 September, Bristol City away, to get that opportunity, what thousands of Geordies only dream of.
Lee Clark 1-0.
Williams.
My first goal for Sunderland away at Leicester was a left foot volley. I didn't realise my left foot was for kicking the ball with it as well. I thought it was just for standing it.
Hignett.
Playing against Chelsea and to score the first goal there is something that still lives with me now, and it's what most people will talk to me about.
Hignett with the ball. Go on, Iggy. You beauty. You Scouser Teesside beauty.
Worshipped every weekend. It's the three legends, banter and rivalry across the North East. On the Toon, the Cat, the Red.
Well, they're here, fellas. You're finally across the northeast airwaves. The three legends. We don't need to do any introductions, but let's do it anyway. We finally moved the satellite in the right place for Craig Hignett. Higgy, welcome.
Evening.
How are you doing, mate?
I'm very well, thanks, Dave. Looking forward to this.
Yeah.
It should be good.
So on sunny Teesside, we've got the man who scored the goal in 97, which effectively relegated the Borough. I'm going to remind him of that so many times. Darren Williams. Daz, good to have you with us, buddy.
Yeah, good. Thanks for getting me off on a good note there with the Teesside crew.
Got to do it. And the man who's sitting in his sun lounger with a tequila sunrise in his hands and a pink paper umbrella on top. No, he's not, but he is enjoying the sun. Is Lee Clark. Clarky, how are you, buddy?
How are you, Dave? How are you, lads? I didn't think I'd be making my second debut when I was 50, that was for sure.
You're 50 now, mate.
I'm 50. I'm an old.
Just a baby, mate. Just a baby, pal.
1990 first debut. Yeah, exactly, Higgy. You wouldn't be saying that if you could see us live.
You're not trying to say it's a good job it's radio, are you?
Along those lines, dear.
Fellas, look, this is your show. I'm just here helping you get it started. We want to chew the fat over North East football. We want to chew the fat over football generally. I don't know where we start. I mean, do we have to toss coins at the start of this game or what? I mean, it's Newcastle, it's Sunderland, it's Borough.
We can start with it. We can start with the other two lads if you want.
No, you just want
seasons up and running.
You just want an easy one, do you?
Just so Clarky can finish his can.
Well, go on then. We'll start from the bottom.
He does too well, Daz.
We'll start from the bottom up. Go on then, Daz. You kick us off.
Oh, hello.
Good. Daz, I've got a question.
Play that goal again. Play that goal again.
Daz, I've got a question for you, pal. Yeah.
Aye, go on then, mate.
Obviously, the situation at Sunderland with Tony Mowbray and Christian Speakman, and the reason I ask is I know Christian very well. He was my academy director when I was manager at Birmingham, so I know how he goes about his business, and his ideas are on young players. And you've got a very young squad now, haven't you?
We have brought in quite a few young players, which obviously, as you learn over the years, obviously sometimes you need experience around those young players, just to keep them on track and such. So yeah, I know there's a bit of a dispute between Tony Mowbray and Speakman at the moment, mate. Yeah,
Clarky,
I think he's come out.
You know Christian,
unhappy, didn't he? I do.
Yeah, he's come out and said he's unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so knowing Tony, because we all know what kind of man Tony is, can you see a clash happening like that?
I can. Obviously, I've worked closely with Christian, and he's very strong in his beliefs, and he'll stick to those beliefs no matter what. And I'm not surprised the route they've taken, because he's come from youth football, academy football, and for him to get that. I mean, I don't know if his role's technical director or sporting director or whatever, but he's mainly the man who gets the final say on signings and recruitment and staffing and who comes in as staff and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think he'll be really strong on bringing young players through. To maybe the detriment sometimes, as Daz has just said there, and you'll know this as well, Higgy, all for giving young'uns a chance. When I was a manager, it was one of the things I loved to do, give young players a chance, but you do need to give them a bit of help with some experienced players around them as well, especially with the expectation from Sunderland fans now after them getting to the playoffs last season. And you know what it's like, any of the three clubs that we all represented in the North East, the expectation level of all those fans is very high.
Well, going on to that. So, Daz, were you really surprised that in the summer there was talk of Tony going? After what he'd done with Sunderland?
Mate, I couldn't believe it, to be quite honest. I was absolutely shocked, shocked to the bone, to be honest, because, after what he did last season, it's your first season back in the Championship, you don't expect to be in the playoffs. You just want to build gradually in there. We all know how hard it is in the Championship. And for me, he took us that step further last season. And when I heard that there was rumours of him going, I thought at first it was just somebody just throwing it in there type of thing. But the more and more I heard it, the more concerned I got, and I'm now concerned: is this causing a lot of unrest behind the scenes?
Mm. Well, it's bouncing.
Well, it looks like
if you're a manager, Clarkie, what would you think if you were, you were listening to rumours in the summer after you'd got your club into the playoffs? Done really well, and that was, by the way, with a lot of the season without his top goal scorer. He's done unbelievable. No, so how do you feel when you go back to work in the pre-season?
Well, Tiggy, to be honest, I mean, like you've just mentioned, they lost Ross Stewart, and he's missing again at the start of this season, and Darlow, the boy they had on loan from Man United. So I think between them two, they got something like 60 or 70% of Sunderland's goals last year, and when you take that out of a team, wow, that's a massive miss. Plus, they haven't brought anyone in. If they've brought a young striker in, and I mean young, I think he's only about 17, the striker they've brought in. So you cannot be expecting these boys every week to be, producing at Championship level, especially when they're all in the team together. That's the thing. You need these young boys around the experience so they can get the help that they need and require at times. But at this moment, I think some of them might be looking around and seeing that there's lots of youngsters around them, so that's what's proven difficult. And especially the start of the season, what Sunderland have had, obviously disappointing defeat in the league. Not a shock result, because I think Ipswich have come up and an outstanding team, got some great players, a top young manager. But obviously then the defeat in the Cup in midweek to lowly Crewe Alexandra. So I think there'll be a huge bit of disappointment. I think that's when the straw that broke the camel's back, as I say, was when Tony come and done his press conference after the game. He said that he was unhappy with, and the club need to move quicker, I think, were his exact words, about bringing him a striker in.
I think this is a thing, innit? We all know about, obviously, Ross Stewart's situation, and having lost him for a majority of the season last season. It was inevitable that we brought somebody in. Really, this is work. I was surprised because we did start signing people early doors. And then obviously that's encouraging signs, but then not to bring in a proven striker alongside, obviously, like the young lad we brought in. I don't know. It's baffling. Are we leaving it late? For me, it's kind of late now to get a striker in, to get him settled. You can just feel unrest, but you don't want that to set in, because obviously it causes major problems.
I think everyone knows in the Championship what strikers are going to be good. It's getting them. That's the problem. And have you got enough money to compete with the teams who've just come down from the Premier League? Or, like Clarkie said before, Christian likes younger players. Maybe that's the route that they're going to go. They had Jallo on loan last year, who was a revelation for them from Man United, but they were never ever going to be able to sign him. I think it's a difficult one if you only in the market for young talent. Even then, there's going to be people in for them, and you might not get them. So I think it's dangerous. I think you do need the odd journeyman here or there who know what they're doing, who can guide other people. Have to be the right characters, obviously, but you need a proper plan, and they might have one. Their plan might be, I'll go out and sign all the young kids, and we might get, like they have done with Bellingham, who's come in, they're obviously taking a bit of a gamble on, but he's got promise. If his brother's anything to go by, for me, it's a dangerous route to go, because you do run the risk of, listen, some of these players might not be up to the standard. They might not cope with the expectation that Sunderland fans have. And then what happens if you hit a slump and you hit the start of the season could be really tricky for them. They've got Preston at the weekend. They've got Rotherham away, Rotherham at home, Coventry away, and it could be a sticky start. But you've got to see things like that through if that's the path you're going on with young players.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned one team there, Higgy, Coventry City. I mean, I know they've got substantial amount in for their striker, Gyorka's 20-odd million, I think. But they've went out and splashed it again. They took Ellis Sims, who was on loan at Sunderland start of last season, done well. I think the quotes were about 3-4 million quid they paid for him from Everton, and they just brought the American guy in from overseas for 7.7 million. So that shows you what Sunderland are up against and what you have to do just to try and be competitive in the Championship now, spending those types of amounts on players, and Sunderland going the opposite route and trying to unearth good young gems from all over Europe all the time. I think it can work with one or two, but I don't think there's any club found it that simple enough to just keep unearthing ones all the time and making them better, making Tony is a good coach, you know that from the football world, and but it is difficult to try and keep them motivated, and to win games you need that player, that special player who's going to get you the 15 to 25 goals a season, and Sunderland certainly don't have that at this moment in time, so it's going to make it difficult, this tough start the season they've had, how they can make it better and come out of this little slump they've had at the start.
Yeah, I mean,
even in the best of times, it's a tough league. Yeah, he does, mate, and this is the thing, and I get that, mate. But you know, from a club point of view and from a perspective, like we said, you know, you do need the older generation around the young uns. You know, because the Championship is such a tough league. You know, no matter how you start the season, you know, it's always tough all the way through. You know, you've got your midweek games, you know, which come thick and fast, and it's such a demanding league, and there's so many good clubs that have dropped down into the Championship now as well.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think the Championship is the hardest league to get out of. It's so competitive. There's a lot of teams who are all around the same standard. Everyone knows the players who are going to get you out of that league. That they might not necessarily be the players who'll keep you in the Premier League, because that's another level again. But it's you know, like I said before, Tony does like working with younger players. The problem might be he might have too many, and too many with promise, and not enough who've actually been there and done it in a seasoned in playing Championship football. So it's a tough one for him, but I wish him all the best, because I think what he did last season was absolutely unbelievable.
Fellas, there's a couple of comments that's winged. Can they wing their way in? A quick one from Malin Seam. Should we be worried? You know, strikers wise, who's actually out there we could get? Obviously a Sunderland fan.
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? I mean, not many. If you have a striker who's scoring goals, those clubs don't want to sell them, and they come with a premium. And by what Tony was saying in midweek, I don't think those type of funds are available to him to go out and get the finished article, as we say, who's going to guarantee those goals. I think he's talking along the route of not somebody so young, but someone who still needs a little bit polished up and a little bit development. But so who is a striker, so they have a focal point. The lads will tell you, you know, we all play at different positions, but you know, it doesn't matter what system. If you've got a good striker and a good focal point in your team, everything clicks into place from there. If you haven't got that focal point, it can break down, and someone who can score goals on a regular basis as well. So, but as I said, it's easy for us to say, yeah, we don't know what budget Tony's working to or whatever, but by what he's saying, it sounds like it's going to prove very, very difficult for them to get one in.
Daz? Higgy, any thoughts on what they can do?
Well, this is a worrying factor, isn't it? You know, are the funds there? Are the funds available? You know, we don't know. I mean, obviously, you know what, we're not inside on a daily basis to find out all this information. But for me, obviously, you know, Bradley Dack, you know, was involved the other night. You know, he's obviously a slightly older player in that squad.
How's he done, Daz? You know, how's he done?
He done all right the other night, mate. He seemed lively. He seemed to link up well. I mean, my only concerns, I mean, Higgy might be able to touch on this with the obviously Blackburn connection, etc. But it's just the fact that he's had a few injuries, you know, and you know, are they going to come back again? And you know, your concerns are around that. But for me, he's very vocal. He's quite encouraging with the young lads, and he seemed to link up really well with them the other night. So, if somebody doesn't come in, is that a possibility? Is that someone we can use? Obviously, Tony Mowbray's worked with him, so obviously he knows him. And has he brought him in for on that, idea of, him linking up with the younger players?
I think the market that they're in, I think he's a 10, Clarkie. I think he revels as a 10. And I think when he had that great season with Blackburn, they were talking about 15 million quid for him from different clubs. Obviously, Tony knows him. He's worth the gamble. The big worry for me, and Daz has just touched on it, is the injuries. When he got injured, he was injured for a long time and found it really difficult to get back into the Blackburn side. He was in and out, but there's no doubt he's got quality. And I think Tony's probably had a little gamble on the fact that he'll get him fit. He knows what he's all about, and he'll be praying that he can hit that form that he did for him when he was scoring 15, 20 goals a season in the Championship. I'll tell you what, Akpom might be available.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say Akpom. We're just leading into it, mate.
We're just coming on to that one, Higgy.
Well, I tell you what, we'll
want to upset you early in the programme.
No, you've got to. That's the whole point.
Get a surprise, could you, Higgy?
Well,
just get a surprise, could you, Higgy?
I think 8 million's been mentioned, so it's too much for you, Daz. But Newcastle might be. They'd lose more than that running for the bus, Newcastle, wouldn't they?
We've got a question on that. Well, I tell you what, guys, we just got to take a little break, but we've got a question on money and the Northeast and Saudis. So we'll do that next across the Cat, the Red and the Two. And it is the return of the three legends, Higgy, Daz Williams and Lee Clark as well. If you want to get your points through to the boys, you can. It's a WhatsApp number, dead simple. You can just bang in this to your phone, 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. WhatsApp your messages into the studio and the lads will get to them.
Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Windows, conservatories and so much more. With high security, great quality, the company you've been searching for. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows.
Why do clients choose Ather & Co?
Very diligent, very caring, put themselves in my shoes.
Always informed me, kept me up to date of what was going on.
Didn't feel I had anything to worry about, and I had nothing to do other than turn up for a medical. Athers did the rest.
For the full story, see athers.co.uk/reviews.
Choose the one you know, Ather & Co.
This is Elton John.
Hello, I'm Phil Collins.
Hi, this is Lionel Richie.
This is not just any old 80s show. Join me for 80s Mint. 2 hours of the best 80s music and memories. Right here, every Saturday night from 9 and Mondays from 6. It's the three legends. Across the Northeast, Clark, legend. Williams, legend. Hignett, legend. WhatsAppers, call or send a voice message. Banter at its best. 033 00 43 2002.
Right across the Northeast, the Two, the Cat and the Red.
Yeah, the three legends across the Northeast. We return after a decade. The lads are not looking a day over 50. One quick one, fellas, to pick up on. You mentioned money in jest, but we actually have a message from Frank in Whitley Bay, and he's saying, do Craig and Darren wish that Borough and Sunderland had the Saudi money? Let's start with Higgy.
Well, my answer to that would be, do Newcastle and Sunderland wish he had Steve Gibson as a chairman? Because he is, without doubt, he's been the best chairman in the last 20, 25 years in football. So, listen, while money's nice, and forget the morals about where it's come from and what have you, every football fan wants their club to show ambition. And that means you've got to have money to show ambition. So, what do you want your football club to be? The people with moral, it's hard to say, but the people who want to do it properly, and properly, by the way, is, you know, I don't mean that disrespectfully, but there isn't enough money to have a normal owner to do what the Manchester Cities are doing, to do what Newcastle may well do. And what do you want for your football club? Do you want to compete with the Man City? Because if you do, you can't be individually owned. You've got to be country owned, so state owned, which these clubs are now becoming. Listen, even the Americans who are coming in with all their billions, they can't cope with the money that the cities and Newcastle's have got. I mean, Newcastle, it's phenomenal the wealth that they have. Financial fair play will come into it, but I'm sure they'll find ways around it, because clubs generally do, whether it's naming rights for stadiums, whether it's sponsoring, whatever, they generally find a way around it. And I think there was a quote from Eddie Howe saying, you know, he wants to bring in one more, but they're going to have to be creative with how they do it because of financial fair play. So they'll find a way. They always do. These people are really clever and will be able to spend the money that they've got. Listen, for me, I'd want my club to compete with the Manchester Cities, but not to the detriment of the club if it all goes belly up and the owners move on.
I love the idea.
It's a tough one.
I love the idea how Newcastle have to be creative not to spend the money, not be creative exactly. to find and spend the money. Daz, what about Sunderland? Would you like them to have the Saudi money?
No, mate, I don't think you can spend it in the UK, to be honest. No,
I could.
I mean, for me, you know, listen, we'd all love the club to have a good stash of money behind them. But for me, it's about building things right and doing things right and going about it in the right way. It doesn't always buy success. You know, let's be honest, you know, we've seen it in the past, you know, people go out and spend fortunes on different players, you know, this, that and the other. Do they fit in with the rest of the squad? You know, sometimes they don't. So I think, you know, and hats off to Eddie Howe, you know, he's come in and he's done it, he's doing it the right way, you know, he's getting players that fit the bill. And for me, he got his players on board last year, you know, and did fantastic. Sunderland, you know, I feel they've got the money. I just don't know why. I'm not asking them, you know, go hell for leather and spend a fortune and bring in anybody. But for me, you know, I think, you know, we've got to open the purse strings a little bit. You know, we need to start to progress and push on, and I think, you know, that's probably the frustrations that that Tony Mowbray is having at the moment. You know, we just want to go and get a striker, so, you know, we're just relying on Ross Stewart coming back.
Yeah, some great comments coming in, and keep them coming in. 0330 043 2002. You can WhatsApp the boys in the studio. 0330 043 2002. But you did touch on Borough there. Obviously, you were talking about Akpom just before the break with tongue in cheek. But Lee, would they be interested in Akpom?
I would see why not. I think he was outstanding last season. I think when Michael came in, he changed his position a little bit, got him coming from a more of a deeper position, and his form was superb. And I think when I was at Higgy who mentioned it earlier, or was it yourself, Dave, who mentioned the figure of 8 million. I think when you're talking them type of figures in today's market, 8 million's nothing to a Premier League club now. You know, they're spending that on youngsters to go into their academy, to potentially go and come through their academy and be first team players. So he's certainly, since he's went to Middlesbrough, he's been terrific, and I think Michael Carrick and his staff took him to a new level as well when they came in. So, but I think it's still the scenario that you've touched on when Newcastle, it's the financial fair play that seems to be the big issue because of the lack of investment in terms of the commercial side of the club over the previous 14 years under Mike Ashley. As we well know, there was only one company getting any advertising during Mike's reign, and they weren't spending any money on it. So, it's come back to bite them. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the stories this week where the players are having their usual before-season meeting with the executives of the club sorting out their club bonuses, because Mike had given them these crazy bonuses knowing that they'd be unreachable, unmanageable. I think they were on crazy money to get to the Champions League, and they were on crazy money to be in cup finals and this, that and the other, because they never pursued those opportunities, and they never had a strong enough squad. But now the players have produced that. They're earning mega money apparently, so the new owners are trying to come to some agreement for them to lower it to more sensible figures. So the players have cashed in a little bit, so that's fair play to them, especially the lads who were there, majority of the Ashley Reign, when they must have been soul destroying at times when each transfer window was going by, and no players were coming in. Because when you're a good player, you want to be surrounded by good players, and you get excited just like the fans do when you see your club bringing in exciting players, because that makes you a better player as well, playing alongside these top players. And some of those lads weren't getting that, but certainly now, that's definitely changed. And I think what Newcastle have done, have put some really important people into important roles. Darren Neal's as chief executive, done an outstanding job at Atlanta United over in the MLS, built that club up from nothing and got them on some commercial businesses. Obviously Eddie Howe, a terrific young coach, great developer of players. And Dan Ashworth is a massive one for me, the technical director, very, very experienced, worked with some great clubs, but obviously was part of the process of this New England DNA thing that they set up at St George's. So that's been one of the big things that's happened since the new owners have come in, getting important people in big positions, and they've done that well.
Clarkey, are you surprised that they haven't signed more high-profile players? If that makes sense, with everything they've got behind them.
I have, Higgy, but I'm not sure where this financial fair play. What I've said there, I'm assuming that's the reasons why we haven't got the clout to go 100 and 110, 120 million on a player, and where he's talking, he wants one more signing, but it might have to be a loan, or it might have to be stage payments, so that we're not knocking the financial fair play, and we're not going to get bitten on the bum when it comes back around. So I am surprised, but Eddie's been really on board all the time. Every time they talked about transfers, he said that the financial fair play situation was tight on him, and when I've spoken to him in private as well, he has said that. So it wasn't just something he was saying in the media, it was something he was worried about. I mean, look, I don't think in an ideal world he wanted to get rid of Valentin Maxim. I think he was thinking he could still be a strong squad player for him, but to get rid of him meant that he could bring Harvey Barnes in. And Harvey Barnes is a typical Eddie Howe wide man. He's got good pace, he makes and scores goals, and he's got a terrific work ethic for the team. He's obviously and obviously knows the Premier League well, so it's a tough one.
They must be spending, but they must be spending the money somewhere, because if you see Liverpool today, they've had 111 million quid bid accepted for Moses Caicedo from Brighton. So and he's a player who I think, well, people like Newcastle, Manchester City, that they'll all be in for him, but for whatever reason, they can't.
I mean, there's three signings: Livramento, Barnes, and Tonali. Higgy have cost combined 125 million.
Yeah.
So it's they've had a go, to be fair. Yeah. But I know what you're saying. I think when the takeover happened, and then all the fans got excited and thought Messi, Mbappe, and Busquets and all these lot, however, Haaland, they were all coming on the same aeroplane the day after. Were a little bit had a few too many of the sherbets, I think. But no, it's listen. I think they're doing it in a strategic way. I think. Like we've touched upon, we know Eddie, we know how he works, and he's done it well. His first window in January, he had to get a certain type of player in to stop the club going down. They were bottom of the table at the time, and he signed players with Premier League experience. And I think probably some of them players have surprised Eddie. I mean, Dan Burn, 6'7", left back. Who would have thought that? I mean, I had Dan at Birmingham, left-footed centre half. I had him on loan. Terrific mentality, terrific attitude, great lad. Did I ever see him think he'd be playing as a left back in the English Premier League against some of the best and quickest wingers in the business? No, I didn't, but the lad's just been terrific. So, let's see what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, Newcastle for me are one of them teams now where I think they're going to be consistent. I think what they did last year was brilliant. I think the way they've done it is, testament to Eddie Howe for the job he's done. But I think they're now going to get better and better as time goes on. I can see them top 4 again this season without a doubt.
Do you not think this is a massive season though, Iggy, with obviously Champions League as well? It's so demanding, isn't it? I think this is a big test. I think for them this season, to be quite honest.
But I still think they'll keep adding to the squad as they sort themselves out.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem for me, for Newcastle, and it's the same for all the North East clubs, it's getting players up here. Everyone, especially all the big name players, they all want to be in London and they all want to do this, that, and the other, and they don't really understand what it's like up here. So that's always been a problem, even for some of the English players who've gone up to Newcastle. In the past. I was speaking to Les Ferdinand when he was at Leicester with him, and he was saying, he wasn't really sure about Newcastle, but in the end he took a leap and loved it, absolutely loved it up here, and it surprised him. But I think you're going to get that, and it's the same for all the North East clubs. Trying to attract players who've got the pick of whoever they want is always going to be an issue, and it all comes down to money in the end, isn't it? They're always going to have to pay a premium if they're going to get these players up here.
Yeah, but I think once they get them up here, I think they do fall in love with the clubs and the fans, mate, because of how passionate it is. But like you say, it's that stumbling block at the start of actually getting them up here.
Fellas, got a couple of messages coming in, which I was going to fire at you. Higgy, particularly, Sarah in Borough. Do you think the Tuba situation will have damaged the morale of the squad? Can it do that?
Well, it can. See, I was at the game on Saturday. I went to the game, and the biggest surprise for me, Tuba was on the bench, which was great. Everyone thought, oh, brilliant. He hasn't trained much. He hasn't had a pre-season, but he's on the bench. Hopefully we'll see him. They went 1-0 down, and you think, right, he's going to come on now. And he didn't. Johnny Howson did, who apparently has trained less than Tuba. But Michael just said he wasn't ready. And then I'm thinking, well, why would you put him on the bench if you're not going to put him on? Because you're going to field questions about it after. And it might have been better if he knew he wasn't going to put him on, to just leave him out the squad and just say he's not quite right yet. So we're going to, be careful with him. But the more you look at it, the more you think something's off. He won't sign a new deal, whether he's not happy with the offer that he's been given, whether he's heard of Sheffield United. That's where I got the 8 million from, by the way. I just read it. Sheffield United were ready to bid 8 million for him. Whether there's interest there, if there is interest, he'll know about it, that's for sure. Is 8 million quid enough for him after what he done last year? Maybe a bit more, because he did have a great season last year. He was absolutely outstanding. I hope it doesn't knock morale.
Would you let him go, Higgy?
Yeah. I think whenever a player gets, whether he has his head turned or not, or whether he's in dispute with the club over a contract, whether he's not happy with a contract offer, whatever it is, it can't be good, can it, for the player or for the club? And I think if you get a fair offer, and it has to be a fair offer, but if you get a fair offer, I'd save all the aggro that you're going to have, or the hassle, and I'd get as much as you can for him and move on. And I just think that's the best and most sensible way of going.
I totally agree with you, Higgy. I think when you get a player who then indicates to you that he doesn't want to be there, it's pointless hanging around. You can try and convince him with a conversation, but deep down that they want to go. I mean, look at Ange Postecoglou with Tottenham. He's coached today exactly the same on Harry Kane. Harry Kane told him on his first day, look, if the club agree a deal with another club, I want to leave. And he stood that. It just shows you the levels you're at. It's about getting the best deal for your club. Then, and as Higgy said, Steve Gibson's a top operator. He'll be speaking with Michael to think what Michael's thoughts are, and I would have thought he'll be the same. It's pointless having an unhappy player. Doesn't matter how good he is, because players play well when they're happy, not when they're unhappy. If he's unhappy, it can affect the dressing room. Definitely can affect the dressing room in a negative sort of way. And so cash in on him and see what Michael can and his recruitment team can produce in terms of bringing a replacement in.
Yeah, and listen, this might all be speculation. Tuba might want to stay, and he might just be trying to get a better deal out of the football club. So there's, both sides will be playing a game, but there'll come a point where that's it. That's the final offer, or I need to make a stand, or I need to go. And we need to get as much money as we can for you. I mean, talking to that Harry Kane one, Clarkie, I was really surprised that he's agreed to go to Bayern Munich with the Premier League goal scoring record there ready for him. Yeah. He'd be a bigger legend, surely, if he stayed in the Premier League and broke the record.
I totally agree with you. I'm quite surprised it's happened as well, Higgy. I've got to say, I didn't think he'd do that one. I didn't think the Bundesliga would be the league that would excite him. I know, listen, they're a world powerhouse, Bayern Munich, don't get us wrong, and they can be competitive in Champions League and that, but I'm with you. I thought he was nailed on to stay in England, and whether he thinks he can have a couple of years at Bayern Munich and come back and play in the Premier League and still beat it, that might be in his mind, because you can't put anything past the fella. He's that good, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Manchester City wanted him, didn't he, last year? So why would you not want to go to City last year? But I mean, I think maybe he couldn't agree a fee. I think he wanted to go, but he couldn't agree a fee. Yeah,
I think Levy's basically told him, "I'll not be selling you to another Premier League club." So his choices were a bit shortened, weren't they? So
yeah, but if he stayed another year, that's on a free, isn't it?
Yeah, he would be, mate. Yeah, and it did surprise me, to be fair, especially with Sunderland needing a striker as well,
Which did he go for? 96 million down. You haven't got 96 quid at the minute, Daz, are you?
Could we pay instalments or not?
Fellas, cracking. We need to take another break very shortly, but I've been massively impressed with one thing in the last 5 minutes. Lee, how do you pronounce that Tottenham's manager's name again?
Ange Postecoglou.
Oh, you got it spot on the first time, mate. You got it absolutely nailed, certainly, the first time. Well done. Sorry about that. Didn't want to put you on the spot. If you want to get your messages into the lads, the three legends, you can. The number's always the same. You can WhatsApp the studio, 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. And it's not just their show that kicks off tonight. Ian Murter, sports writer extraordinaire, based in the Northeast. 38th season has just begun, reporting on Northeast football. He starts at 7. He's going to join the boys in around about 5 or 10 minutes' time. They'll have a quick chat. That's all, including the three legends, coming next.
Catherine was turned down by 2 other solicitors before Ather & Co took on her case.
My husband was at work, tripped over, fractured his knee. He developed pulmonary embolism and died. That left me a widow with 3 young daughters. Devastating. Charles Ather took my husband's work to court, got them to admit liability. They were very diligent, very caring.
Choose the one you know, Ather & Co.
So glad that I went to Ather's.
Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Windows, conservatories, and so much more. With high security, great quality, the company you've been searching for. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows. Whoa, Celestial, Celestial Windows.
Clark, legend. Williams, legend. Hignett, legend. It's the three legends. WhatsApp us, call or send a voice message. We don't bite. 033 00 43 2002.
Right across the northeast, by the fans, for the fans. The tune, the red and the cat.
The three legends back on Northeast Airwaves on the Toon, the Cat and the Red. The Toon for Tyneside, the Cat for Wearside, the Red for Teesside. The Clark, the Williams and the Hignett, I'm sure, will be picking up a couple of quick points coming in from the fans. Phil in Durham, we don't have to answer these, but I just want to say hi to Phil in Durham. Great to have the legends back on the radio, sounding great. Will you all be watching the Amazon documentary about Newcastle? Oh, go on then. Clarky, will you be watching the documentary?
I've watched the first episode today, Dave. Yeah, I've watched it, and it was very good. Looking behind the scenes, you know, on the Anthony Gordon signing and how they went about things, and speaking some good interviews with the chairman, who he's made it plain what his ambition is to be number one. So there you go, Eddie. Pressure's on.
Higgy, Daz, are you guys going to bother watching a Newcastle documentary?
Listen, the Sunderland one was bad enough, so I'm going to watch the Newcastle one just so I can pick holes in it for Clarkey.
Yeah. Listen, if this paint dries too quickly, yeah, I'll be watching it definitely.
Brilliant. What about the weekend then? It's a big weekend, isn't it? Let's start with the Premier League. Daz, I think you've had the least to say. You've not been able to get a word in edgeways, mate, so we'll give you a shout. Come on, Newcastle. Your favourite subjects kicking off the Premier League season.
Can't get a word in edgeways. They're like women, them two, aren't they? Let's be honest. No, yeah, I mean, you know, looking forward to the Premier League season starting, to be fair. You know, obviously, we all like to look at the Premier League. You know, obviously, you know, we'd love, obviously, Sunderland, Middlesbrough, you know, to be up there with Newcastle. Yeah, it's exciting times. You know, I think it's a tough opener for Newcastle, in honesty. I think Villa have done well. They finished the season off well, you know, and they're looking to progress. For me, it's a tough start. I do fancy Newcastle in the game, to be quite honest. You know, I'm alongside Iggy. I do think they'll continue moving forward as they have done over the last season. And you know, it's going to be an exciting time for them, obviously, having Champions League football as well.
Yeah, I mean, before the season starts, can I just say that Middlesbrough are the last team to win a major trophy? Is that all right? And say that, because I think Newcastle are getting dangerously close to doing something.
Craig, 1969.
So I just want to mention that. I think the first three games that Newcastle have got are really tough. I think Villa at home, for them, they have to win it because they've got City away and Liverpool at home. Then two really, really tough games in the first 2 or 3 weeks. Listen, on the flip side of that, it might be a good time to play City, and it might be a good time to play Liverpool when new players are trying to bed in and they're not quite up to speed. But it looks, you know, the first 3 games look a real nightmare start for Newcastle. But I expect them to do well this season. So is it a shock if they went and beat City away? Not a massive shock, but it would a slight shock. If they beat Liverpool at home, I don't think that would be a shock. I think, you know, last year we've seen the 2 games and they were very, very evenly matched, and you know, it boiled down to individual errors, really, the game. So I don't know. Listen, we'll have to see. I'm obviously a Liverpool fan, so I'm going to go for Liverpool in that one. But it's a tough one because Newcastle are a real force, and like I said before, I do fancy them to go really well again this season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really tough game tomorrow, to be honest with you guys. I think, as you've already touched on, Villa done terrific since Emery went in, and they strengthened the team well. Obviously, Uli Tielemans has come in from Leicester, outstanding midfield player, knows the Premier League, so he'll be a big boost for them. And Torres, a centre-back, who obviously Emery knows a lot about from his time in Spain and Derby. So another player that they brought in the midfield area as well. So I think it's going to be a tough game, and like Craig, you said, they've got a tough start. They've got some really telling fixtures. I think if there's any time to play City, and I know they're that good, it probably is the start of the season, because they've got that many top players, and obviously them playing in the Champions League final means their season goes on longer than most, and so they'll be just getting up to speed, I would have thought, some of their players. So they seem to have a little bit difficult start, City, because you don't want to be hitting them when they get into their rhythm, because I think they're unplayable, to be honest. But yeah, I'm expecting a really tough encounter tomorrow night at St James's, and a tough start. But on the flip side, like you said, if we can get some points and get some results there, it'll give everyone a huge lift before the Champions League qualification, and the groups are drawn out the hat on 31st of August, so that'll be nice.
Fellas, just before you go any further, you're not the only first, it's not the only debut on the stations tonight. There's also Ian Murtagh. I'm sure he's a guy that you know very well from his football writing days. Ian joins us now just to have a quick chat about what's going on in his show tonight. I don't know whether you want to have a bit of banter with him. Has anybody suffered at the hands of the pen of Ian Murder, fellas?
I gave him 8 out of 10 every week.
Yeah, I think Ian's very honest. He's probably one of the only few fellas who's seen all three of us play. He's that old.
That's a
Have
great
you seen the last time Newcastle won a trophy?
Not quite.
But black and white and red all over is the name of the show. Ian, what have you got on it tonight?
That's right. Well, my first guess is someone, at least two of you know very, very well, and a former teammate of you, and Craig will have played against him a few times, Michael Bridges. So Michael,
great
I
lad,
thought
Michael.
he's a super lad, and I thought I'd bring in Michael because, of course, it hadn't been a great start for Sunderland, but Chris Rigg became their youngest Football League Cup goal scorer at 17. The last 17-year-old to score for Sunderland was Michael Bridges. So there's a nice little link there. And I've also, later on, I'll be chatting live to a fellow journalist, Scott Wilson, who I think you know well. Scott is someone who knows all three clubs inside out. You know, he works for the Northern Echo, who they feature Middlesbrough, Newcastle and Sunderland. So, and it's 20 years.
Don't forget Hartlepool as well, Ian.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you know what? I was devastated when Hartlepool went down last year. I just wish they'd brought in their current manager a few weeks earlier, because I think they would have survived.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Cracking.
Anyway, you've set a very high bar,
always
gentlemen.
Disappointing.
It's dreadful. Listen to me.
We're like a bar. Hey, Ian, you know we're like a bar. We love a bar. You call it a pub.
We will do. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Thanks, Ian. We'll be with you after 7. The news at 7. Ian Murder with black and white and red all over, joining us on the cat, the red and the tune. Fellas, what have we got? 6 minutes left. We were talking about the weekend. What you'd expect. You touched on Newcastle. What about dipping into the Championship? What's going on there? Higgy, Borough.
Well, they haven't had a great start. The Millwall game, they kept the ball quite well, but didn't look a threat. And when you look at who they've lost, Ramsey, Archer, Akpom was on the bench, Giles, who was a real supply line for them, they've all gone. So you've taken 75% of your goals out of the side, and they did, in that final third, they did look short of ideas. I don't think anyone could moan with the result, and I think Millwall were probably worthy of a 1-0 win. But then they went to Huddersfield the other night. Important, they got a win. They did, scored 3 goals, so that'll do their confidence the world of good. A tough game, Coventry away. Mark Robbins has done an unbelievable job. It's obviously they were in the playoffs. Coventry got the better of them last year. I think that's going to be another really tough game. But Middlesbrough last season, the start killed them. The start that they had a really poor start, and then they came like a train. And then had a really in and out ending, so they don't want to let too many teams get too far ahead of them at this stage. So hopefully they'll get a decent result away there, but it'll be tough.
Daz?
I always think it's a tough place to go, isn't it, Coventry? Let's be honest, it is a tough place to go. For me, obviously Sunderland, Preston. We've got fond memories of obviously towards the end of last season, pulling out, a fantastic result there. To wedges towards the playoffs. You look at the game against Ipswich. It started off really well. Like Iggy said with Middlesbrough. Possession of the ball was brilliant. Got 3 or 4 chances early doors. Bellingham had probably the best of the chances in the game, but unfortunately didn't hit the target. And again, we're along similar lines, Middlesbrough and Sunderland. It's in those final third, that we're struggling for, ideas and or clinical finishing. But I'm staying positive. I'm staying positive for the week, and I'm hoping, obviously, the maybe's introduce Bradley Dack into there, alongside a few of the young lads, to see if we can settle them a little bit and obviously get ourselves on the score sheet early doors.
Daz, I hate to say it, but we're only 3 games in. If they don't get a result at Preston, it's only under pressure because of what's gone on. Not necessarily because of 3 games in or whatever, but because of what's gone on as well this week and what happened in the summer.
Mate, yeah. Yeah, I think so, mate. Yeah, I think, Tony will probably be feeling that pressure, to be quite honest, especially after having such a good season and still feeling under pressure at the end of the season. I think it's bizarre. Like you say, we're talking 3 games into the season, 2 league games and a cup game, and we're already concerned that, the manager might be under pressure. When really this shouldn't be happening,
No.
But like I say, hopefully, the season's kick-started on Saturday, and we both start moving up the table.
Clarkie, what's your thoughts on the Championship?
Extremely tough division, unbelievably tough division, and as the lads have said, no easy games, home or away. Everyone, gives everything in that league, and you've got the clubs who've come down, you've got clubs who are still getting parachute payments, you've got clubs who are coming up, like Sheffield Wednesday and that big club coming back into the Championship again. So yeah, 2 tough games for the 2 clubs, Preston away and Coventry away. We've already touched on the finances Coventry have used this summer to go and purchase a few players, and Preston at Deepdale there, never an easy place. They had their own little setback in midweek, mind in the cup, got knocked out at home off Salford on pens, so they might be feeling a little bit of pressure as well, and especially at home. But I just think it's going to be difficult. The lads have touched on it, and it's a simple thing to say when you take the Ross Stewart being missing, and obviously Akpom's not playing at Middlesbrough at the minute, and the players that they had on loan, as Higgy mentioned. And if you haven't got that goal scorer, it's difficult to get results, and because they can change games for you, games where they're really tight. That goal scorer that you've got just makes a goal out of nothing and puts it in the net and gets the confidence levels of everyone else. So as I expect 2 tough games for them, and hopefully they can get results. I mean, the lads said it before, I think Darren said it about the 2 clubs being hopefully back in the Premier League. I would love to see the 3 clubs back in the Premier League together again. The derbies are the games that whetted the appetite a lot, so I'd love to see them back in, but they do have to turn round, which is certainly Sunderland's been a poor start. I think Middlesbrough, because they got the result in midweek, they could be alright.
Okay, let's finish with Barry's question in Gateshead. What are the lads' predictions for the weekend? Give us your predictions, lads. Iggy, we'll start with you.
Tough game away at Coventry. I'm going for a 1-1. I'd be happy with a draw there. Anything else would be a bonus for me.
Okay. Daz, Sunderland?
Again, it's a funny place to go, but I'm staying confident. I'm staying behind Sunderland. I'm going to go 2-0.
Okay. And Lee, Newcastle?
Very tough game, but we'll nick it with the help of the crowd, 1-0.
Okay, wonderful. Fellas, we're out of time. First one under the belt. Well done. Thank you for your time. Go and enjoy yourself for a week.
Woohoo! Cheers, mate.
All the best, fellas. Cheers.
Clap.